We're breaking down Donald Trump's tax returns, and Congress pushes through a $1.7 trillion omnibus bill, and we're breaking that down as well. All of that and more here on The Paul Brad Show. Welcome to The Paul Brad Show. It is Thursday, December 22nd. And as always, support the show by hitting that like and subscribe button, as well as leaving us a short, sweet comment down below regarding anything that we covered today's episode. Your help and support would be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, our lead story of the day is regarding Donald Trump's tax returns finally being released. Yes, the day has come, and we're going to be breaking it down here for you folks. We got a lot of new subscribers here, so many of you may not know this. But before I became a teacher, I was in the field of public accounting, spending most of that time in taxation and then a little bit of time in assurance and advisory. But I know a little bit about what's going on here. I haven't read this article. I know nothing about Donald Trump's tax returns. We're going to be breaking it down. You're going to get a real-time reaction from me. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And with that being said, former President Donald Trump repeatedly paid little or nothing in federal income taxes between 2015 and 2020, despite reporting millions in earnings. Documents released Tuesday night by House Democrats said Trump frequently made tens of millions of dollars annually during that period, but he was able to whittle away his tax bill by claiming steep losses that offset that income. Notify the newspapers, folks. This is headline news. This is page one. Folks, this is a nothing burger, okay? We see this all the time as accountants. You don't even have to be a millionaire to capitalize on this, okay? Everybody does it. Everybody utilizes it, but because it's Donald Trump, we got to make a big deal over it because he makes millions of dollars. He's a billionaire. He doesn't pay anything in taxes. In 2016, he paid $750. 2017, he paid $750. And then in 2020, he paid nothing. And it was probably because I would imagine maybe his income dropped or he had more deductions, whatever it may be, that resulted in that offset of his losses and his income. This is something that the Congress created in the tax code, tax law, that us as accountants go and utilize and just report and take care of it for the client. Trump doesn't do his own taxes. He pays guys a lot of money, like what I used to do it for him. Now, his tax return is probably a doozy because he got a lot of property. He has a lot of transactions, a lot of stuff going on. So he's paying some buku bucks to get this stuff done. But the point is here that these progressive leftists know nothing about taxes. They know nothing about business. You get these politicians that know nothing about business either. Somebody did a study one time and virtually found that almost everybody in the Democrat Party had never ran a business and know nothing about business, didn't even go to school for business, but yet they're trying to sit there and tell business owners what to do about their business. It's totally head-spinning, mind-blowing. Point is, this is nothing. We see this all the time. He's just following the law, following the tax code. There's no loophole here, okay? You're going to hear this all the time, and you guys, if you can learn anything from today's episode, please know when somebody uses the word loophole, please know that they're an idiot, okay? There are no loopholes. We're just reporters as accountants. Congress created a law. There's a tax code, tax law. There's a bunch of books in our firm or our conference room, wherever you may have them. We can go look up what to do, and then we just follow that and do it. There's no loophole. It's not like you're getting around something. It's just there for us to do. I'm not saying people don't break the law, and there aren't people that have cooked the books in the past, like Enron and Arthur Anderson back in the day and all that stuff. I'm not saying that didn't happen. But this is a nothing burger, folks. He's just following the law here. It goes on to say, and though the IRS has a long-standing policy of automatically auditing every president, Democrats say the agency did not begin vetting Trump's filings until they began asking about them in 2019. Who cares? Trump frequently claimed he was under contentious audits by the IRS to justify his refusal to voluntarily disclose his taxes, which snapped a long-standing tradition of presidents and White House contenders volunteering their returns. As an accountant or prior accountants, I never understood this aspect of why people treat tax returns from presidents as such a big deal, or even politicians. Now, you could find out certain information in terms of like how much they contributed, who they contributed to. You know, you could find out certain information, kind of like we do with Black Lives Matter, kind of exposing why they're giving all this money to LGBTQ centers or businesses. Some of them aren't even, seems like they're fictitious, they're not even real. So there's things that can come out from it. But by and large, you're not really getting that much information that tells you about the individual. Mostly you're getting told what the accountant reported based on the individual, and some things are even left out. I mean, you could have an individual, meaning like say somebody like Donald Trump, literally donate tens of millions of dollars and never be reported on their tax return. Maybe it was of no benefit to them. Maybe they didn't want it to be disclosed. Maybe they wanted to do it behind closed doors because of their faith. Whatever it may be, it really doesn't tell you that much. So I just never understood the aspect of like why Americans just in general, or just American citizens and politicians push this so hard. It's really nothing. The revelations, which came after House Democrats voted Tuesday to make Trump's returns public, marks the culmination of the long-running mystery of what's in his filings, something he's fought for years in court to conceal. It promises to create yet another controversy for the scandal-plagued Trump. It's not scandal-plagued Trump. You guys are just going after him literally ever since he went down the escalator. Leave the guy alone. I mean, for the love of God, the fact that he's not behind bars, he's like the cleanest person you've ever met in your entire life. He's literally had the entire government of the United States down his throat since day one, and you haven't found anything. Literally nothing. And now you're complaining because he took business losses year after year, which he's allowed to do, and thus didn't owe anything in taxes. You're going to complain about that? By the way, he did pay $1 million in taxes. We'll get there in one moment. It promises to create yet another controversy for the scandal-plagued Trump, one that is sure to shadow his bid to return to the White House and raise uncomfortable questions for his fellow Americans. You know, it's uncomfortable because you got a lot of politicians, you got a lot of knuckleheads that know nothing about taxes, which is why they're making this a big deal, which I'm telling you right now is not a big deal. Just because I'm a Trump supporter, if this was Biden, I would tell you it's not a big deal. It's nothing, you guys. It's literally nothing. It also puts a spotlight on the IRS as well, including a recent departed commissioner, and its promise to impartially administer the tax code. At the same time, it is a last-minute victory for Democrats, particularly Ways and Means Chair Richard Neal, who waged a 3.5-year court battle for the returns, but whose enthusiasm for the fight was often questioned by his party liberal wing. Neal obtained the returns just last month after the Supreme Court declined to block the release to him, and Democrats raced to get the information out before they slipped into the minority in the House on January 3rd. Democrats said it would take some time to scrub the filings of Trump's personal information, such as his social security number and addresses, but that the returns would be released in the days to come. I love how they put such as his social security number and his addresses, which is literally on the front page of your 1040. So I don't understand why they're talking about scrubbing Trump's tax filings as if that's something hard to find. It just shows you these idiots know nothing. Like, it's literally on page 1 of your 1040. Depending on the state, it'll be on your 542. I don't know. California's a 540 for the state, if anybody wants to know the number. But they're making this a big deal as if it's something that you need to look through and like scrub through. Give me a break. But Democrats also asked the Joint Committee on Taxation, a nonpartisan office of tax lawyers and economists, to advise lawmakers on tax issues, to examine Trump's filings, and lawmakers released the agency's findings along with their own report on the IRS audit system. Though Trump has cultivated an image of a widely successful businessman and bragged about paying little in taxes, he appears to do that mostly by reporting big losses. So all of a sudden you're a failure as a businessman because maybe one of your businesses, or you had some sort of business that failed one year and ultimately recouped in another year. And so you have income, you have some profit there, but it's just being offset by those losses. You have a lot of businesses, folks, that just took a shellacking during COVID-19 because the government locked everybody down. So because those businesses took a loss, are all of a sudden those failure businessmen and women? Is that what we're going with here? It's so stupid. If anything I'm highlighting here, it's just all stupidness that we're making this such a big deal. In 2015, JCT said Trump reported making more than $50 million, pretty damn good in my opinion, through a combination of capital gains, interest, dividends, and other earnings. So it sounds like he has a lot of investments, obviously capital gains, which I think it's taxed at 20%, which is another avenue of what goes into this, is because if you say had capital gains from stocks that you sold, say it was like $400,000, what 20% of that would be roughly you're paying $50,000 in capital gains tax. Versus if you had a career, like an actual job paying out a W-2 for $400,000, you're going to be paying a lot more tax on that $400,000 than you would because it's a capital gains tax if you were to just cash out through, say, that stock option. So it is treated differently by the code, but they're going to complain about that too, I'm sure. That was offset, though, by more than $85 million in reported losses. He was hit by the alternative minimum tax. We call that AMT as well. It's almost like a net. I don't want to get into it because it's actually really complicated. But really, it's just a levy that's designed to make it harder for the rich to zero out their tax bills at the end of the day. It generated a $641,000 tax bill. The following year, he reported making $30 million, but also claimed $60 million in losses. He was dinged again by AMT that year, though he still ended up owing $750. In other years, check this out, Trump paid more. In 2018, he had far fewer losses to report and ended up paying almost $1 million, folks. You can live your entire life and never pay $1 million in taxes. And also, I'd like to point out the whole fact of him paying $750 one year, $750 another year, $1 million another year, zero in like a following year in 2020. Folks, this guy owns property. He builds sky rises. The cement alone, the metal alone, the steel to build these things, he pays more in tax alone in that than you would your entire life. But people, for some reason, get up in arms over this stuff. I don't give a crap that it's Trump. It could be any politician, Biden or whatever. They pay taxes, folks. A lot of taxes. And just because we don't see that as the end result doesn't mean that they don't or do. It's just the way the numbers work out, and that's the end calculation. If Congress doesn't like it, then change it. For the love of God, then change it. I hope they don't, because who the hell wants to pay taxes? We'll get to segment 2. We'll see where all the money's going, because they just spent over $1 trillion in the span of all this inflation, and it's going to a bunch of foo-foo stuff, a bunch of discretionary spending. We'll get to it, folks. Wait till the second segment. It's going to piss you off and make your head spin. Why would you want to give your money to a bunch of these knuckleheads, huh? So praise Trump for not owing any taxes, for the love of God. The IRS has a policy dating to the Nixon administration of automatically vetting every president's returns, something designed to both assure the public that the tax system is being administered equitably, and also to spare the IRS from having to make politically fraught decisions over which presidents to audit. Little is known publicly about how the process works. That is true. There's about 3 or 4 ways that an audit can be conducted that we kind of know about. But it says here in 1998, law makes White House meddling in audits a felony. Neal told reporters that he had not come across evidence that Trump had tried to influence the agency when it came to examining his taxes. The super rich are typically subject to relatively high audit rates. The IRS says it examined 8.7% of those who made more than $10 million in 2019. People in the top 0.01%, making sure they actually got that right, because that is an extremely low number, percent of incomes make more than $7.4 million in 2020, paid an average tax rate of 25%. 1/4 of it, folks, 1/4 of their earnings gone. And it's still not enough for people. It's still not enough for these progressive leftists. The average rate that year for everyone was 13.6. Earlier this year, President Joe Biden reported paying 24.6% in taxes. It is highly unusual for lawmakers to forcibly release private tax information, and Trump was not legally required to disclose his taxes. But he defied a decades-old tradition of presidents volunteering their filings. So we're going to force you anyways, Mr. President. We're going to force you to release these because we don't like you, and we want to do everything we can to diminish your public image. I mean, it's so sick. It's so sick what this government's done to this man. So these filings, incensing congressional Democrats who seized his returns under a century-old law, allowing the chairs of Congress's tax committees to examine anyone's private tax information. Many Democrats said the public not only had a right to know about Trump's finances, they also said they wanted to know how vigorously the IRS was questioning the president's returns. As if like the president, or excuse me, the IRS is backing Donald Trump. As if our own government wasn't out to get the guy. I mean, look at what the government's done with freaking Twitter. Look what the government's done in freaking paying Twitter to censor things. Like, I don't know, the Hunter Biden laptop. That was just ousted the other day in like part 8 or 9 of the Twitter documents, which I posted on the community tab. If you're not familiar with that, folks, literally the FBI, our own government, told Twitter that basically tell the American citizens and politicians and everybody else that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake, that it wasn't real, even though they knew that it was in fact real and that it wasn't fake. So this is the people that the Democrats are going like, we got to watch the IRS because they might be helping Donald Trump. The same IRS that Obama utilized to go after the political opponents. No, yeah, that same IRS. It all makes sense, right, folks? It all makes sense. Many Democrats said the public not only had a right to know about Trump's finances, they don't have any right, folks. He's a private citizen. They don't have any right. And again, this whole thing about throwing out tax returns, it's a bunch of hocus pocus. It's a bunch of foo-foo. Democrats got his personal returns as well as a handful of business filings from 2015 to 2020, mostly coinciding with Trump's time in office. Again, it's a nothing burger, folks. Again, you can find things from these returns in terms of where they're contributing their money, where they're putting it at, like we saw Black Lives Matter, and you can find some sort of information. But other than that, you're not really going to get anything out of this. It's more of a political stunt than anything, and kind of capitalizing on American citizens' ignorance of taxation, which a lot of people have, to make it a big deal when in fact it's not. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. Moving into our second story of the day, we got pork, parks, and woke. All the fun futures in a 1.7 trillion. Yes, folks, this is not a million. This is not a billion. 1.7 trillion omnibus bill. It's almost even hard to say. Like you lose your breath when you use these types of words like trillion. It's like knocking the wind out of me when I say it. Mind you, we're in a massive inflationary period. Okay, what is it, 8.1%? But let's just keep spending money like it's hotcakes. No, this is a great freaking idea. Leave it up to Democrats to push through this idiotic thing. Critics are howling at spending perks and rules littered throughout the $1.7 trillion omnibus bill meant to fund the federal government for annual fiscal year. I'm going to highlight a bunch of stuff here, folks, for you. A bunch of stuff. Just hold on one moment. Sit down, get your coffee, get ready to go, because boy, oh boy, are you about to be pissed. The legislation unveiled in the Senate early Tuesday and boasts, I just got to make sure I say these numbers slowly because they're massive numbers. $858 billion in defense funding, which I'm for, as well as $772.5 billion for non-defense discretionary programs. This is where the waste is, folks. This is just, let's throw anything and everything out there that we can, added into like this, basically this 4,200 plus page bill that nobody's read, by the way. Nobody knows what the hell's in it. They literally just pass through it, not knowing what's in it. My resolution, all this, by the way, I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but my resolution is that you shouldn't be able to pass a bill without, one, knowing what's in it, but two, just having one line item passed at a time. Literally one thing. If you want money to go towards buying more, say, military jets, say F-22s, that's one line item. You have to vote on that. How much money is it going to be? Then you move on to the next line item. Oh, we need more, I'm just going to throw out something stupid, Apache helicopters. Okay, that's one line item. How much is it going to be? You vote on that. Rather than throwing in 4,000 page long documents that nobody read and it just gets pushed through. It's so irresponsible of these politicians to do. People work hard for this money, folks. People work very, very hard. All of you work hard, and they're just spending it because it's somebody else's money and they don't feel the effects of it. Dan Bishop shared on Twitter thread on what he dubbed some of the most egregious provisions in the bill. First on his list was a section outlining requirements of more than 1.5 million geared towards border management requirements for U.S. Customs and Border Protection, including a ban of using those funds to acquire, maintain, or extend border security technology and capabilities, except for technology and capabilities to improve border patrol processing. Let me just read that because I think some of you might have been confused because of the way it was worded. To acquire, maintain, or extend border security technology and capabilities, except for technology and capabilities to improve border patrol processing. Remember that Karine Jean-Pierre is on this podium every single week of like, well, we need to process these migrants. We need to make everything better. We need to make it quicker and more efficient. Why aren't you doing it then, Karine? Why is it not there? It's all highlighted, folks, for you. I'll leave the link down in the description below. At a time when Republicans condemned the Biden administration for not doing more to secure the U.S.-Mexico border, Bishop pointed out that the bill allocates, are you sitting down, $410 million towards border security for Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman. Folks, you heard me correctly. We're giving $500 million to other countries for their border security, and we can't even finish building the border wall in our own damn country. You know how much border wall we can build with $500 million? Quite a bit, probably filling the gaps that are there. But no, they want to sit there and push this whole thing. We all know their agenda at the southern border. They want to turn those people into votes. That's all it is. They want to push amnesty. I don't know if I've said this for literally 2 years. That is the end goal here. Roughly 5 million people have made it through the U.S.-Mexico border under the Biden administration. It's actually more than that. So to give you kind of a number here, 30 million people are sitting in this country illegally at the moment over the course of, decades long illegal immigration that's been happening. So you're looking at 22 million roughly before Biden took office. He's let in roughly 5 million. We know there's about 1 to 2 million gotaways. You're looking at roughly 30 million people, folks. That is more than many, many of our states in population. They want to do amnesty for all. I'm sure you know where those votes are going to go. Detecting something fishy, Bishop noted that the word salmon, yes, like the fish, appears 48 times in the bill, which included a $65 million commitment to Pacific coastal salmon recovery. He also found $3 million for bee-friendly highways. This is real, you guys. This isn't like made up. This is all in the bill that they're highlighting here. Yet the Heritage Foundation released a list of its own focused on woke priorities in the omnibus, including several LGBTQ projects and anti-racism initiatives. Among the list of earnings and earmarks, the group said we're at $1.2 million for LGBTQ plus pride centers, $477,000 for the Equity Institute in Rhode Island to indoctrinate teachers with anti-racism virtual labs, and $3 million for American LGBTQ plus museum. This makes me livid. It makes me livid. Congress members, I can't even speak right now. I'm freaking my head. You guys, I have to hold it together here because we're on YouTube. And if I do anything out of the remote that's weird or awkward or sensational or theatrical or whatever it may be, I have an opportunity of being demonetized or being removed and deplatformed. So I have to hold it together here and try to contain my thoughts and not cuss or do anything wrong. Conservative members of Congress are particularly put off by some of the items that have to put the parks within the trails. In addition to nearly $45 billion more aid to Ukraine, yes, you heard me correctly, Jesus Christ, $45 billion more aid to Ukraine and NATO allies. The omnibus seeks to fund the creation of a Ukrainian independence park. They're building a park, you guys, with your taxpayer dollars. Isn't that lovely? Another section would designate a federal building in San Francisco as a Speaker Nancy Pelosi. You guys? I haven't read this before, so like I said, a lot of times you just get real-time reactions out of me. Another section, I don't know if I could do this without laughing. Another section would designate a federal building in San Francisco as the, quote, Speaker Nancy Pelosi Federal Building. It's also a $3.6 million transportation department element for a Michelle Obama trail in Georgia. That's where they're putting all your money, folks. Perks such as these had Mary Miller saying she would vote against the radical Biden omnibus. Yeah, you think? This is a waste of money. But that's what they do with these $4,000 packages. Scott Parkinson, Vice President of Government Affairs at the Club for Growth, posted a list of fun earmarks, break down many of the it's basically the allotments by states and districts for lawmakers. For instance, he singled out forgive me, folks, Representative AOC. She is not a Republican, far from it. She's actually more of like a socialist. And other members of the squad surmising these high-profile leftists with disregard an increase in defense spending because they each got millions in earmarks. Republican lawmakers were also subject to scrutiny, particularly those who are retiring. Outgoing senators, like one from Oklahoma, got $511 million worth of earmarks in the omnibus. Richard Shelby, the vice chairman of the Committee on Appropriations, who had a major role in drafting legislation, scored earmarks worth $656 million, according to Breitbart News. Both Republicans, by the way, folks. Both Republicans. So just because they're Republicans, we ain't letting them off the hook here. You're wasting our money, man. I'm so tired of the government wasting our... We're, $30 trillion in debt? Is that where we're at now? Maybe even higher than that? These idiots are still spending money? Like we have it? It has to piss you off, man, because you guys, at some point, we're going to get called on our debt. At some point. I think it's like you owe almost $300,000 to the government per citizen. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Do you just have $300,000 sitting around? Because I sure the hell don't. Not saying that's going to be called on tomorrow, but if we all had to pay it, that's what we're looking at. Hope you're happy, folks. That's the people we elect here, both government, Democrat and Republican in the government. Quote, in return for giving away 9 months of GOP leverage with the disastrous omnibus, Richard Shelby gets an FBI building named after him. Nobody is a cheaper date than the Senate Republican. Absolutely right. That comes from Charlie Kirk. In addition, the package would give $2.63 billion for U.S. attorneys, including funding to further support prosecutions related to the January 6th attack on Capitol and domestic terrorism cases. $2.6 billion for this. This theatric, the show that they're putting on. Lovely. Lovely. Just, this is great where all our money's, and that's just a little bit, you guys. People are still pouring through this thing. That was just what we know of as of right now. Can you imagine? There's 4,000 plus pages of this thing. Can you imagine what's just in this? Where people are getting buildings named after them. Oh, Michelle Obama's getting a trail in Georgia. You have them building a park for Ukraine. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below, folks. I'm freaking flabbergasted right now. I'm so pissed. I'm so pissed at people wasting our money. As somebody that did finances for a lot of years and still does and teaches finances, is so irresponsible. And these idiots still get things pushed through like this. And no Americans are out there just screaming. They're not just yelling about this because they don't realize that they're going to owe this money. It's not going to hit them, folks, till they have no money in their pocket. 8 in 10 Americans live paycheck to paycheck already. And it's even worse now that you have inflation because of the Biden administration. So they're just going to keep spending. Okay, you got inflation going up through the roof. They're printing money like it's hotcakes. Still passing out stimulus checks like it's hotcakes. You're paying more at the pump. You're paying more at the grocery store, but yet you're getting paid less at work. Technically, the value of your dollar is less. So this is just great planning by our government. You're just running stuff right into the ground. Again, I'm trying not to cuss here. Let me know what you think about this all in the comments below, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you watch all the way through. And folks, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Ball Brad Show.